Hey guys, in this section, we're going to be talking about Kotlin Collections API. We're going to be talking about lists, set, map, and we will also include arrays, although they are not a part of the Kotlin Collections API, but they are used to store collections of data. So if you head over to kotlinlang.org and click on docs, and right here there are a bunch of options. Click on standard library and collections, click on overview. If you scroll down, you're going to see the collection hierarchy interfaces. So as you can see, there's like mutable, iterable, there is iterable, and then there is mutable list and mutable set. We're going to be briefly going over each of these. We'll also go over map and mutable map. Now let's take a look at how we can create lists in Kotlin. Kotlin allows you to create read-only as well as mutable collections. So let's create a read-only list. We'll call it fruits list. And we will use the list of function to create this list. This will be of type string. So we're going to store strings in this list. So we will define it as type strings. Although we don't have to define the type because of type inference, it's understood that this is going to be of type string. So I can remove the type here. And let's also create a mutable counterpart to this. So we will create this called m, and we'll use mutable list of function here. So the difference between the read-only and the mutable is, as the name suggests, this is read-only, so you don't have methods to add elements into this or remove elements. So if you try to do that with the mutable list, you will have methods in there to add elements. So let's say I want to add element on the 1th index. Let's add 1. So here I'm adding the bananas element to the 1th index, so 0, 1, so it'll go right in the middle. So let's go ahead and print this list. So you can iterate through the list. I'll show you 3 ways you can do that. So first one is using a for loop, which is pretty straightforward. We're going to use the infix function here. So fruit in fruits list, and then we're just going to print this. So I'll go over infix function in a future section, but for now, this is what we will use to loop over this fruits and apples, bananas, oranges. And if you want to access elements, because these elements are stored in the form of, they're kind of ordered as indexes, so 0, 1, 2. So if you want to, access a specific index, so let's access the 1th index here. We will use the index operator, just square brackets and then put in the number. And so this is going to print bananas because that's what we added here. So the first one we saw was the for loop. Now let's grab an iterator. So we will call this the fruits iterator. And what we will do is we'll grab the iterator from this using the list iterator method. And the way we loop through using an iterator is using a while loop. We will do a has next here, put in a condition, and then using the next method, we are going to print each element one by one. And so it prints apples, bananas, oranges. And the other way we can loop through the elements is using higher order functions. I'll go over lambdas in a future section, but for now I just want you to understand how we can use higher order functions to perform operations on the list elements or just loop through them. So the first one we're going to take a look at is the map. And what we will do is we will do some operation on this. So let's make each of these elements uppercase. So what we're going to do is when we do a map, there is a predicate here. If you want to rename that predicate to something, you can do that. So let me rename it to fruit here. Use the arrow operator and use the predicate, use an operation on the predicate, which is an uppercase. So map will return a list. So let's assign it to another list. We will call this uppercase list, and then we can iterate through this list using another higher order function called for each. So the difference between map and for each is map returns a list, For each just loops through these elements one by one, and what we're going to do is we're just going to print that element using the it keyword here. Now, as you see here, I have renamed the predicate to something like fruit. However, if I don't want to do that, you can just use the it keyword, which is by default taken as the predicate. So now let's run this. I did a print, so let's do a print ln so that it prints on in different lines, and that's what it does. So essentially what I did was I mapped through all the elements, I made them into an uppercase, and it created a new list and assigned it to this variable. You don't really have to assign it to a variable, you can just cascade them just like that, and that works just fine. Let's also take a look at the filter function. So what we will do is we will filter elements starting with A. So let's add one more element in here, apricots. And what we will do is this predicate, I don't want to name it to anything. I'll just use the it keyword here. So what we will do is we will just take it and use the function starts with a prefix and put in the character uppercase A. So uppercase and lowercase, so they're different. If you use a starts with uppercase A, it's just going to pick apples and apricots. Now what we will do is we'll use a for each in this case and print that element. And let's print it again. Now this it refers to the predicate in the second filter function, second for each function that we use. So let's go ahead and do that. So apples and apricots, you can remove the elements as well. So remove at one, so it's just going to remove bananas, and let's do a map again and do an uppercase. We're just going to remove this and print it. And apples and oranges. Lists care about indexes. You can create read-only using the list of function or the mutable list of to create a mutable list.